President Donald Trump released a new list of potential Supreme Court nominees on Friday, updating a previous roster that included newly appointed Justice Neil Gorsuch. The refreshed shortlist removes Gorsuch and adds judges Amy Coney Barrett, Britt Grant, Brett Kavanaugh, Kevin Newsom, and Patrick Wyrick. For many Republicans, Trump fulfilled one of his key campaign promises to replace the late Antonin Scalia with a similar conservative judge when he nominated Gorsuch in January as one of his first major presidential acts. In a statement, the White House said, President Trump will choose a nominee for a future Supreme Court vacancy, should one arise, from this updated list of 25 individuals. The president remains deeply committed to identifying and selecting outstanding jurists in the mold of Justice Gorsuch. These additions, like those on the original list released more than a year ago, were selected with input from respected conservative leaders. President Trump's updated Supreme Court shortlist. Amy Coney Barrett of Indiana, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit. Keith Blackwell of Georgia, Supreme Court of Georgia. Charles Canady of Florida, Supreme Court of Florida. Stephen Colloton of Iowa, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. Allison Ide of Colorado, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. Britt Grant of Georgia, Supreme Court of Georgia. Raymond Gruender of Missouri, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. Thomas Hardiman of Pennsylvania, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 3rd Circuit. Brett Kavanaugh of Maryland, U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Raymond Kethledge of Michigan, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. Joan Larson of Michigan, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. Mike Lee of Utah, United States Senator. Thomas Lee of Utah, Supreme Court of Utah. Edward Mansfield of Iowa, Supreme Court of Iowa. Federico Moreno of Florida, U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida. Kevin Newsom of Alabama, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. William Pryor of Alabama, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. Margaret Ryan of Virginia, U.S. Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces. David Strauss of Minnesota, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. Diane Sykes of Wisconsin, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit. Amal Thapar of Kentucky, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. Timothy Timkovich of Colorado, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. Robert Young of Michigan, Supreme Court of Michigan, RET. Don Willett of Texas, Supreme Court of Texas. Patrick Wyrick of Oklahoma, Supreme Court of Oklahoma.